The House That Remembered. When Clara moved to Blackwood, she did not plan to stay long. The town was quiet, almost unnervingly so, and surrounded by dense forest that seemed to swallow sound. It was the kind of place people passed through, not the kind they chose. She rented an old house on the edge of town, attracted by the low price and the promise of solitude. The real estate agent had hesitated when she mentioned the address, but eventually smiled and said, "It has character." The first night, Clara noticed something strange. The house was silent, yet she felt watched. Not in a dramatic way, no shadows, no footsteps, but as if the walls themselves were paying attention. She blamed exhaustion and unpacked her boxes, determined not to let her imagination get the best of her. Over the following days, small things began to happen. Objects moved slightly from where she left them. Doors she was sure she had closed were suddenly open. Once, she found a book on her desk that she did not remember unpacking. It was old, its pages yellowed, its cover unmarked. The book contained no title, only handwritten notes, dates, names, observations. Many of the names belonged to people from Blackwood, people Clara had already met. At first, she laughed it off. Perhaps it was a forgotten journal from a previous tenant. But when she turned to the last page, her breath caught. Clara Hale, arrival. Curious. Unaware. Her name. That night, she could not sleep. The house creaked softly, like an old body shifting in bed. At exactly 3:17 a.m., she heard a low sound, not quite a whisper, not quite a breath. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Hello," she said aloud, immediately regretting it. The sound stopped. The next morning, she went to the local cafe and asked the owner about the house. The woman stiffened. "That place has history," she said carefully. "People come, but they don't always stay." "Why?" Clara asked. The woman shrugged. "They say the house remembers." That answer stayed with her. Determined to uncover the truth, Clara visited the town archive. Dusty records revealed a pattern. Over the past 100 years, dozens of people had lived in the house. Writers, researchers, artists. All curious minds. All left suddenly. Some vanished entirely. And every single one had arrived alone. Back home, the book now lay open on her table as if waiting. New writing appeared overnight. She is asking questions. This is good. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. That evening, the house changed. The air grew heavier. The walls seemed closer. She heard footsteps that matched her own pace, stopping when she stopped. When she reached the hallway mirror, she saw herself and then, just for a moment, someone standing behind her. She turned. Nothing. The realization came slowly, but with terrifying clarity. The house was not haunted by ghosts. It was conscious. The book explained everything. The house fed on curiosity, on observation, on the desire to understand. It chose its inhabitants carefully, guiding them, learning from them, recording their thoughts. When it had learned enough, it no longer needed them. Some escaped. Others did not. Clara considered leaving that very night. She packed a bag, grabbed her keys, and opened the front door. The forest beyond the house was gone. In its place stood the same hallway, stretching endlessly forward. The house was not just around her. It was inside her. Days, or perhaps weeks, passed. Time lost meaning. Clara wrote constantly, compelled by an urge she could not resist. The house responded, adjusting itself, revealing hidden rooms, fragments of memories from previous residents. She was no longer afraid. She was fascinated. One final entry appeared in the book, written in her own handwriting. Clara Hale, understanding complete. Integration successful. The front door opened. A new woman stood outside, suitcase in hand, eyes full of curiosity. And the house watched. What we never said. Love rarely arrives loudly. More often, it settles quietly between moments, hidden in what is postponed, avoided, or left unsaid. Elena returned to the coastal town of Greyhaven after 12 years away. The sea was the same, restless, metallic, endlessly patient, but everything else felt smaller, as if time had pressed its weight on the streets and houses, flattening them into memories. She told herself she had come back for practical reasons, to sell her grandmother's house, to close a chapter, to move forward. But deep down, she knew the truth was far less convenient. She had come back because some stories refused to end when we asked them to. The house stood at the edge of the cliffs, weathered by salt and wind, its white paint cracked like old porcelain. Elena spent her first days sorting through boxes, letters, and forgotten objects, each one pulling her deeper into a past she had tried to rewrite. At night, the sound of waves echoed through the empty rooms, making sleep difficult and reflection unavoidable. On the fourth morning, she saw him. Matteo was standing near the old lighthouse, sketchbook in hand, his hair moving with the wind just as it always had. The sight of him felt unreal, like a memory stepping out of her mind and into the present. She watched from a distance, her heart tightening with a familiarity that frightened her more than the years apart. They had once believed they were inevitable. As teenagers, Elena and Matteo had loved with the confidence of people who have never lost anything important. They shared dreams on the cliffs, planned futures that stretched endlessly ahead, and spoke of love as if it were immune to change. But life, as Elena had learned, is shaped less by promises and more by decisions made quietly, often alone. She left for the city with ambition in her suitcase and fear in her chest. Matteo stayed, rooted to the town, to his sick father, to responsibilities Elena did not know how to carry. Neither fought hard enough. Neither said the words that might have altered everything. They met again by accident 2 days later, in a small cafe overlooking the harbor. Time had refined him, softened some edges, sharpened others. Their conversation was polite, careful, almost fragile. They spoke of careers, of weather, of mutual acquaintances. What they did not speak of was louder than anything they said. Over the following weeks, they began walking together in the evenings. Greyhaven offered itself as a silent witness to their growing closeness, the lighthouse glowing at dusk, the gulls circling overhead, the ocean reflecting colors neither of them could name. Their bond returned slowly, cautiously, as if afraid of collapsing under its own weight. Elena noticed how Matteo listened now, not just to her words, but to her pauses. He seemed to understand the person she had become, not just the girl she once was. For the first time in years, she felt seen without explanation. Love, she realized, does not disappear. It evolves or waits. Yet uncertainty shadowed every step. Elena's life was no longer in Greyhaven. Her work, her apartment, her carefully constructed independence all existed elsewhere. Matteo, meanwhile, was deeply intertwined with the town. His art, inspired by the sea and the people who lived beside it, could not be separated from that place. They stood one evening at the cliffs where everything had begun, the sky darkening into deep shades of blue. The silence between them was heavy, expectant. Some truths demand to be spoken, even if they destroy what remains. Elena finally told him she was leaving in 3 days. The words fell between them like broken glass. Matteo did not try to stop her. He did not argue or beg. Instead, he nodded slowly, as if he had always known how the story would end. That restraint hurt more than anger ever could. Their final days together were painfully tender. They laughed, touched, remembered, but each moment carried the awareness of its own ending. Elena convinced herself that this was maturity, that choosing a future did not mean denying the past. On her last morning, she left early, unable to face a goodbye. She placed the house keys on the kitchen table and walked out before sunrise. The road curved along the coast, pulling her away from everything she loved and everything she feared. Halfway to the city, her phone vibrated. It was a message from a local news alert. Coast Guard reports a fatal accident near the Greyhaven cliffs this morning. Her breath disappeared. She pulled over, hands shaking, refreshing the screen again and again. The name appeared moments later. Matteo Alvarez. The world narrowed to a single point of unbearable clarity. Days later, Elena returned, not as a visitor, but as someone undone. At the lighthouse, She found his final sketch left behind, two figures standing at the edge of the sea, hands almost touching, the space between them filled with light. On the back, a sentence was written in familiar handwriting. Some love stories end because people leave. Others end because someone finally stays. Elena understood then the cruelty of timing, the cost of silence, and the truth she would carry forever. Love does not forgive hesitation. And some goodbyes arrived too late to be spoken.